Okay, guys, so this is Azure Data Factory training session where we will see the concepts, best practices, and other advanced topics. From basic to advanced, we will learn all the topics related to Azure Data Factory. And I hope you are able to see my screen. Just a second. It's getting, wait a moment. Yeah. So when we talk about, the Azure Data Factory, the first thing we will talk about the introduction. So yesterday was the first class where we have introduced what is Azure, what is on-premise and on cloud, right? What is cloud computing? Then we talked about ETL, then we talked about data engineering, right? So today we are going to check some more features of Azure, and plus we will switch to Azure Data Factory. And I will also show you, the subscription which I had created. Okay. And we can also, go, if you have any doubt, we can go one by one to resolve your problem. So fine. So let's begin with this. Okay. Now, what is Azure Data Factory? Okay. So before going to this, I'm going to give some concepts. So before going to the topic for today, I'm going to just give a 5 minutes recap what we have done so far. Okay. So first thing we talked about on-premise system. Then we talked about cloud system, right? So when we are talking about data, data is nothing but data is a set of meaningful information, right? And because in today's world, we are doing business with the help of data. Business is not possible to run in a profitable manner, or even it cannot be managed to any extent if we are not managing the data. So data is the most important part. So for any business, like for any manufacturing industries like CPG industry, retail industry, service industry, all the industry is relying on data, right? So if they have their own setup in their own premise, okay, uh, so simply this on-premise simply means that there is a setup of storing data and managing data in their own premise, then it is an on-premise system. Now to do this data management, they have to do a lot of investment in terms of purchasing the database, investment in terms of setting up the DBA team. DBA team is nothing but database administrator team, right? They will also set up some server which is connected through internet, and it should be having very good configurations so that they can easily read and write the data, right? Then there will be a continuous support team who is supporting to do any stuff of data, right? So this all related activity to manage the data is required, right, by any company to in their own system, in their own premise. So those stuff is known as on premise, that we have discussed yesterday. Now there are companies like Microsoft, there are companies like Google, and there are companies like Amazon. So these three companies are the big player. What they are doing, they are offering their database, okay, because they have set up the database, a very big database, and they connected this database to the cloud. Cloud means to the internet. Now, with the help of these database and data centers, anybody any company like CPG company like Pepsi, Coca-Cola, right? There are multiple companies. What they can do, they can store their data in this cloud, and they can purchase, I mean, take the subscription and pay the money. So this is the concept of cloud, right? So we have also talked about another example of using Google Photos these days very prominently in our mobile phones, right? So in our mobile phones we are storing our all media file photos, on the Google Drive. Why it is Google Drive? Because it can be accessed from anywhere, and it will not fill the memory of our phone. right? So this is again the concept of cloud and on-premise. So we know about, so this is all about this concept. Now coming to the another concept. Now once the data we can load in on-premise or on cloud, the most important thing is data engineering and why the data engineering is required. So when we are talking about data engineering, the concept come with ETL. ETL stands for E stands for extraction, T stands for transformation, and L stands for loading. Right? When we are talking about extraction, so basically why extraction is required. So for example, if we have a data in any system, so in those data, we have some data coming from SAP. SAP is a ERP application where all the business runs, right? There are some data stored in Excel. There are some data stored in any of the application. For example, when you are booking the ticket, right? Airline ticket, Make My Trip. So Make My Trip is an application. So basically you are actually feeding a data to that application. That application is storing data somewhere in SQL server or whatever storage they have. They are storing there. Similarly, you have application known as Instagram, YouTube, any kind of applications. You know, so these are the things. And we have some external database like we have a SQL DB, we have another database, right? So these could be the source of the information. Now, if we have to do any kind of data visualization, because we are using data for analytics purpose. Now, analytics is a very broader term, guys. When we are talking about data analytics, these days, analytics is not only meant for reporting. Okay. Analytics has broader meaning these days. With the help of data, you would be able to find out that how your company, perform for the next 6 months or next 1 year, right? How you can achieve the targets. Is your company growing or not? Right? Based on that, your share market prices, your company performance, everything is dependent. So with the help of this data, you can do data visualization and you can do data science related activities also. Right. For example, if you see the companies like Uber and Ola these days, and you can see the companies like Amazon, right? Or the company like Flipkart, how they are growing. They are growing just because of data analytics. Okay. Because they know what should be the price, they have to offer you if for any cab booking, right? Or what should be the discount they have to offer you for by Amazon and Flipkart to make the things happen. So anyways, data engineering is the most important part of which is further extended with the concept of ETL. Now when we are talking about Azure, right? So Azure is a what is Azure? Azure is a cloud based database offered by Microsoft. Make sense? Okay. Now, so in Azure, we can do n number of things. We can do ETL with the help of Azure Data Factory. We have Azure Synapse also. Later on, you will get to know what is the difference between Azure Data Factory, Azure Synapse. We have Azure Databricks also, right? So all these things are the component of data engineering. Okay. Then we have data visualizations and we have data science also. If you want to do data science, you can use AI ML techniques within the Azure. Correct. If you want to do a data visualization, you can have a Power BI dashboards connected with your Azure, right? So with all these things, the ultimate goal is to achieve is data analytics. Okay. Now in this course, we are looking first for ADF. ADF stands for Azure Data Factory. Okay. And as I mentioned in previous class, okay, that what is Azure Data Factory? So we are going to explore more about Azure Data Factory. So basically Azure Data Factory is a tool using which you can perform your ETL operations. Means you can do extraction. Extraction simply means the data is available in your source system. Now you can extract the data within the cloud. Okay. So you can extract the data within the cloud. So you can imagine this is the cloud. Okay, this is cloud, which is known as Azure Cloud Storage. So you can extract the data from these sources into cloud. Okay, and you can store this data, and after that you can do some transformation. T stands for transformation. What's the meaning of transformation? You can do some kind of filter, you can join some you can do join, you can generate additional columns. For example, if you are generating a profit and loss report, right, you can generate the column of loss or profit or percentage of growth, something like that, right? So you can generate additional column also, right? So for this you need to clean the data and you need to apply some formula, right? So those things you can do in transformation. And finally, once the transformation is complete, for example, you have cleaned the data, you got whatever you need, what you can do, you can make that data available for reporting. Okay, so you will load the data in some final this thing, in final layer, and on top of this you can generate the reports. Simple. Okay, ENL report. Okay, and on top of this data you can generate the report, you can write some machine learning algorithm, you can do some kind of artificial intelligence, right? So there is an opportunity of data visualization and data science both, right? So I believe you are clear as of now. Now let's go and talk about some details. Okay, so basically, what is Azure Data Factory? So Azure Data Factory, as we have already discussed, it's a ETL, but it is a cloud-based ETL. Okay, so if you are talking about any other tool which help to move the data from one system to another system or within that system, but in some on-premise system. But here, for example, if you talked about SQL Server, okay, so from SQL also you can do that, but that time of SQL was only meant for on-premise systems. So this is only meant for Azure. Azure is a cloud-based data integration tool. Okay, so what is the basic main important feature is data movement. So it can move the data within the cloud, within the Azure, and it can do, the data, it will help you to also take the data from outside environment. Okay, another thing is data transformation. As we talked about data transformation, what are the transformation opportunities we have? We can apply the filter, we can do the joining, right? So these are, or we can generate the additional columns. These are data transformation. Now talking about orchestration. Orchestration means it's a kind of workflow which automatically runs. There's no need of human intervention to load the data. So one time if it is created, some pipeline is created, and that pipeline will make sure that data is flowing from source to target. Okay, so this is very in a brief I am talking about. Now yesterday we also talked about a very simple example. Okay, so here in this slide you can see some simple example. So imagine you have a sales data in your company. Okay, and you have that sales data available in some on-premise system. Okay, now you want to analyze this data. Okay, so definitely you have to do extraction, and you have to transform, you have to do some generate some additional column and so on before doing it for reporting. If you are doing the same stuff with Azure, you can use Azure Data Factory, right, to extract, transform, and load. And finally you can load into SQL database. Oh, okay, which is within the Azure only. So in later part we will also talk about the other things. Okay, now I will quickly jump into showing the system. So I believe let me open this. Okay, so this is portal.azure.com. So the screen looks like this. Okay, so when you see, you can see, there are multiple options coming here, which is known as Azure services. So first option is subscription. So first thing is you have to, purchase a subscription. So I purchased a subscription. This is a free trial subscription. Okay. And you can see in this free trial subscription, if I click there, you can see all the details. The same subscription you need to create that. Okay. This is the option to cancel the subscription. So if you want to cancel this before 30 days, okay. So your free credit expire in 29 days. So it is within next 30 days, it will be expiring. Okay. So if I want to not use this service, what I can do, I can make it cancelled. Fine. This will also give you all your activity logs. Activity logs means what all things I have done. Okay. So I have purchased this 3 hours ago. So that's why it's saying 3 hours. Then we have access control and other things. Anyways, so I'm going to go in subscriptions, and these are all the services. So in this, you can see, list of all the services. So basically, what do you know about services? So services is basically using this cloud, what activity you can perform. These are known as services. For example, if I talked about AI plus machine learning service. So we have all the components using this. We can, do anything. For example, this is Azure machine learning. Okay. This is face API. Okay. This is AI search, Azure AI Studio. This is a language service, speech service. So Azure is offering everything these days. Document intelligence. So basically, the people should know what all capabilities we are having. Okay. Then we have Azure Synapse Analytics. We have Azure Databricks. So going forward, you will get to know about all these terms and terminologies, how you are using it in your solution. Fine. Okay, so we have Azure DevOps. So actually, I have created a document which I was showing yesterday, right? Which I'm going to share you. In that document, I have talked about most important things that we should know as a beginner. Okay, fine. Now, coming to the other things. The next thing is the basic concept of Azure. So in this Azure, when we start with Azure, we should know about these concepts: resource group, containers, Azure Data Factory, and Azure Virtual Machine. Okay, these are the very basic things that we should know. Okay, so I'm going to talk about these things first. So till the time you are with me, guys, any problem, any questions? Okay, so when we are talking about resources, for example, as I mentioned you that you need to do a data engineering activity because this is your profile. Okay. The meaning of data engineering, as we discussed, is nothing but performing the ETL operations. Means we will do the extraction. Okay. And so extraction simply means that the data is available in some source, right? But this data is a raw data. Okay, this data contains the sales data, or you can say taxation data. Okay, and other information like delivery information or whatever it is. On the basis of this data, I need to develop some analysis. Okay, so analysis I can see in form of reports. Okay, or if you want to further dig down, deep dive into analysis, or you want to generate some forecasting value. Okay, this is known as performing some data science activity. And with the help of this forecasting value, if I want to generate some artificial intelligence these days, generate some artificial intelligence, which is again known as Gen AI, basically, right? We are generating some artificial intelligence, means artificially, after doing this forecasting, the system will tell you that if you want to increase your sales, to 10% in the next month, what all activities you need to perform. Okay, so you can see that with the help of simple data, we can do n number of things. But what is the backbone of it? The backbone is first you need to make this data stored somewhere in a more clean version, right? So because of that thing, we are doing a data engineering activity. So data engineering is the very first step to, to reach from simple raw data into this Gen AI part. Agreed, guys? Okay. Now talking about um, this data engineering activity. So if we decided, if my company has decided that I'm going to use Microsoft Azure technology, because there are many providers of cloud, Amazon is also a provider. Amazon offers you Amazon Web Services, which is known as AWS. Google provides you GCP, which is known as Google Cloud Platform, and Microsoft provides me Azure. But my company has better relation with Microsoft, so Azure is the biggest choice for this company. Now within the Azure, now to manage the data, to store the data, we have to make Azure Data Lake. We call this as a Azure Data Lake. So Azure Data Lake is nothing but I can store the data in Azure SQL DB. So SQL DB means S database. So we have, you might have heard that SQL database is already company are using from long back. The companies are using, but those SQL DB is an on-premise system. It's a kind of hard disk you can imagine. They have purchased hard disk, SQL hard disk, and they have set up in their own premises. That is the on-premise SQL DB. I'm not talking about this SQL DB at all. Okay, I am talking about the SQL database which is offered by Microsoft Azure Cloud, which is known as Azure SQL DB. Okay, so my intention is to build this, to store same set of data which they are storing in on-premise in my SQL DB, which is Azure SQL DB. Similarly, we have other storage also, like we have Azure SQL, this, you can say Azure Synapse Analytics. Okay, we have Azure Cosmos DB, Azure Cosmos DB. Okay, and we have other things also. If you are storing data in file format, we have Azure Blob Storage, Blob Storage. Okay, and we have Azure ADLS Gen 2, ADLS Gen 1, Gen 2. So it's a version. So basically latest one is Gen 2. What is the meaning of ADLS? The full form of ADLS, Azure Data Lake Storage. ADL, Azure Data Lake Storage. Okay. So these are the options where you can store the data, right? Within the Azure. You can have SQL DB. We can have Azure Synapse Analytics. You can store the data in Azure Cosmos DB. You can store the data in Azure Blob Storage. You can store the data in ADLS Gen 2, right? These are the Azure storages. Okay. Now, how to store the data? So, so Azure is giving you an environment or a tool which is a very user interactive tool, and there is a no need of doing any coding and programming. Okay. Yeah. In coming session, you would be able to see that why this ADF is more prominent and popular, because the coding is very less. No coding is required, right? So ADF is a tool, cloud-based tool, where without any coding, you would be able to create the pipelines. Okay. When we are talking about pipelines is nothing but a flow using which you can extract the data, transform the data, and load the data, right? So you can imagine you have a data source. Okay. So, so if I go here, these are the, what are these? These are the sources. So let me come here. So this is the source of a data. These are known as data sources. So my all data is stored in these systems, in SAP system. Now, if I decided to move this data into cloud, I have these many options, right? Now, if I have to move the data, I have to move from here and there, and within the cloud also, I have to move the data into several places, right? So, which tool will help? I can create pipelines using ADF tool. So what is ADF? ADF is not a database, but ADF is a tool using which I can create a pipelines. In later stage, we will also talk about what is the purpose of pipeline, how it can be, built, and so on. Okay. Till the time you are with me, guys. Okay. So, so next thing I can talk about resources. So I was talking about resources actually. So if you have purchased the subscription, the very first thing is you have to decide which resource you are doing. For example, if you are a data engineer, what you will do? You will first, create the Azure SQL DB. Why Azure SQL DB? Because you have to store the data. Or you will create ADLS Gen 2 to store the CSV file or Excel file. Correct? You will create Azure Blob. Why Azure Blob? Because Azure Blob has a capacity to store both, any kind of file and media and non-media data as well. For example, if you have to store your audio clip or video clip, you can store in within Azure Blob, right? If you have to, do some data in a very data analysis in a cube structure, you can also use a services which is Azure Synapse Analytics. You can also use Azure Databricks if you have a very big data. Okay. Don't worry about these terminologies. You will get to know, in coming future. I will give more information about that. But I'm telling you, whatever services you are using offered within the Azure, this is known as resources. Okay. And you can use Azure AI and ML technique. This is nothing but a data science. If you are a data scientist, what you will do? You will use Azure AI and ML. If you are a data engineer, what you will do? You will create ADF pipelines. So you will use Azure Data Factory services. So these services, okay, if you want to send an email automatically, right, from one system which through a workflow, then you will use Azure Logic Apps. Okay. If you want to create a virtual machine where you can run any job, because right now when you guys are working with a client or anyone, they have given you some virtual desktop, right? You're going in that desktop and working in that environment. So what will happen? Everything, the data of the client is secured if you are working in virtual desktop, right? So similarly, in Azure also we have Azure virtual machine, right? So whatever I have listed, these are known as resources. Resources. Agree, guys? These are resources. So concept should be clear. So resources are nothing but it is tagged to any services which you are using, which is offered by Azure. Okay. Now, because the first thing is you created a subscription. Subscription will give you, how you are paying because to the as Microsoft. So subscription is nothing but a payment plan, you can say, which you are getting in contract with Microsoft to use this Azure. Now, how you will pay to the Microsoft? You will pay to the Microsoft based on these resources. So under this subscription, you need to create resources, right? You need to use these resources, not to create. Sorry. Now, if you are using any resource, that should be comes under a resource group. So the first thing that you have to build is resource group. What's the meaning of resource group? So for example, I have a project, no name as Pepsi. Okay. So I am working for a Pepsi. So what I'm doing, I'm creating a project Pepsi, and within that this Pepsi project, okay, project for Pepsi, I am going to store all the data coming from Pepsi, okay, for Pepsi. So I will create one resource group for Pepsi. Okay, so for example, if my project name is grocery store, forget about Pepsi. If I'm creating a project for grocery store, I purchase a subscription for grocery store, right? Then, as per, because I need to store the data for this store, right? So I will create a resource group, and this resource group will be having all the list of resources. So whatever payment I'm doing, you know, to the Microsoft, that will depend on whatever resources I am having under that resource group. Agree? So did you understand the concept of resource and resource group? So resources are the services. What is resource group? Resource group is grouping basically. For example, you can create the resource group based on your profile also. For example, if I am having a data engineering profile, so my tool will be ADF, my tool will be Azure SQL DB, correct? For example, so I can create one resource group for my data engineering profile. Make sense? So that my billing should be, appropriate. One resource group I can create for, data science profile where I can kept Azure AI ML. Okay, I can kept another thing like Azure Logic Apps, something like that, right? So based on the nature of work also I can create this resource group. Based on project also I can create the resource group. The purpose of resource group is to, you know, uh, to get the charge to track the usage and billing. Is that fine? Now, clear? Now, the another thing is, let's suppose subscription is done. Okay. You have created resource group also. Okay. Now you have this. What is this? This is Azure Data Lake. Azure Data Lake is there. Okay. Now within this Azure Data Lake, because you have created, you are using a service of ADLS Gen 2, or you are using a service of Azure Blob. This is the basic service you will use. And what is the purpose of using this service? For example, if you have a CSV file, or if you have a Excel file, right? So you will be first storing this data within this cloud, right? But you cannot store simply anywhere within this cloud. The first thing is that if you have CSV file or any file system, you can store in ADLS Gen 2. You have two options. One is to ADLS Gen 2, another option is Azure Blob. The difference between ADLS Gen 2 and Blob is there are two differences. First of all, Azure Blob can hold any kind of data. If it is a file system, it can hold the data. If it is a media data like audio clip, video clip, it can hold that data as well. Correct? And but ADLS Gen 2 does not hold, you know, media and audio clip. It only holds non-media data. Fine. This is the difference. Second difference is in ADLS Gen 2, you can create, hierarchical folders. For example, one folder, you can create another folder also. But in Azure Blob, you cannot create multiple folders and subfolders. This is the, drawback. So nowadays, nobody is using Azure Blob. Most of the companies are relying on ADLS Gen 2. Anyways, so when you have created this ADLS Gen 2, okay, so you cannot create anywhere because this is a, this is a cloud, and imagine this cloud is having 1000 terabytes. storage capacity, right? So you cannot simply store anywhere. You have to create a storage account. So another terminology comes is storage account. For example, you all are using laptop, guys. Okay. So laptop is having 1 TB of data. Imagine this way. So in your laptop, you have C drive, you have D drive, you have E drive, you have F drive. C drive stores all your program files. Agreed? The other drives, D drive is meant for your own personal work, like you are storing movies. E drive, you are storing all your personal household data, something like that. So you have divided this. Why you have divided? So that you can easily, if you have to navigate to movie, you will only move to D drive. Similar way, in this entire cloud storage, we can create n number of storage account, right? For example, if I am holding the data for Pepsi, right, and I want to hold the data for sales and distribution, and I want to hold the data for finance, so what I will do, I will create a separate storage account for SD, separate storage account for FI. So what is the meaning of storage account? So storage account is nothing but it is a partition within the cloud, right? It is a partition. So imagine if you have created a storage account for sales and distribution, right? Let's suppose this is the partition, right? And within this partition, you can create folders and subfolders. Those folders and subfolders are known as containers, right? So another terminology is containers. Make sense? Don't worry, I'm going to create it very soon. Okay? So done. Till the time we are good. Now the next thing coming is Azure Data Factory. Okay. Now you are ready with subscription till the time. You are ready with resource group. You have created resource group also. And within this resource group, you selected ADLS Gen 2 or SQL DB. You can create, right? And you can also create ADF. What is ADF? So ADF is a separate interface within the cloud. Okay. So ADF is nothing but this is a another interface, or you can say a website where you can create the pipelines. Okay. And this pipeline will help you to extract the data, transform the data, and load the data. Right. So what is ADF? Azure Data Factory is another kind of services provided by Azure, which only help with the help of that you can easily create your ETL pipelines. I know this is a second class and very first time you are hearing all these things. So it might be looking a bit confusing, but I'm trying to make as simple as possible for you. Is it making sense? Okay. So now what I would do, I would directly jump in creating this. Is that okay? So we already did the subscription. So you can do the subscription by yourself. I'm not covering that. Now what is the next we have to do? We have to create resource group. Okay. And why resource group is important? So that we can start, you can use any services. So these are the list of services. So here you can see resource group. So if you will click on this resource group, okay, you have an option to create. Okay. So because you can drill down these services. So because I am only having one subscription, which is free trial. So under this subscription, I can create the resource group. So what you will do, you will create a resource group by giving some name. So I'm using RSG. RSG basically help me to identify that it's a resource group. Okay. So RSG underscore, I can see, I can do this demo class, or you can mention like ADF class. Okay, simple. So here it is mentioned as reason. You can click on this icon to know what is this resource group. So it's saying a resource group is a collection of resource that share the same life cycle, permission and policies. Okay. So it's a collection of resources. For if I'm using it for data engineering, I can create one resource group for data engineering. If I'm using it for development environment, life cycle is basically development, quality and production. So there will be separate resource group for development, separate for quality, separate for production. So these things, I mean, we will discuss later because this will be too early to discuss on this thing. Okay. So then we talked about reason. So why reason is important? Because this Azure cloud is spread across the globe. There are multiple data centers available in the globe. In America, we have data centers. In Asia Pacific, we have data centers, right? So you can choose any of the data center. Okay, so you can see that in US you have 4 data centers. In Asia Pacific we have 2 data center. In Europe we have 1, 2, 3, 4 data center. One is US, fifth data center of US is also there. Africa we have data centers. So these many data centers are there. Okay, so I'm going to select any of the data center. Okay, and I will simply click on review and create. Okay, so my validation is passed. So this is the resource group. So what I will do, guys, the best practice for me is I will keep everything noted. For example, I have created a resource group. Why this is important? Just to track my development, right? So this is the name, RES. Let me write it. Okay, ADFCLS. Okay, simple. This is the resource group which I created. And what I will do, I will hit on create. So it is created now. So you can see that resource group created. Any questions as of now? If you click on this resource group, you would be able to see all the piece of information. For example, if you see overview, okay, it will give you the information. So under this resource group, nothing is there. No resources is added so far. It means I have just created a resource group. But within that resource group, there should be a ADLS, there should be a ADF for so many services, but no services is there. That's why it is looking blank, right? Now, what is next? The next we have to create, we have subscription, we have resource group. Now we are going to create the storage account. Storage account. Okay. So you can go to all services. We can see here it is a storage account. I will hit on the storage account. So what is storage account? Because I have taken the subscription. I have entire cloud with me, which is having unlimited data. But within this cloud, where I will store the data. So I will store the data in one particular storage account. Okay. So that storage account I am creating. So again, for storage account, what I will do, I will follow the naming convention SA. So you can see automatically subscription is coming, right? And resource group is also populating. If I am having multiple resource group, I can select multiple, but I am having only one resource group. So only one resource group is coming. Here also you are getting an option to create new. If you are not satisfied with this resource group, if you want to create a new, you can do this. But I am not going to create any new one. Okay. So I will create a storage account now. So I am just putting SA and I'm putting AD class. Okay. So, but that should be available. So you can say the field contain only lowercase letters and numbers. The name must be between 3 and 4 characters. Okay. So because I kept a hyphen, that might be one of the reason. Yes. because it was only allowing me for I mean either lowercase or numbers. That's it. Now region will be same. Okay. Now primary services, if you want to use a primary services like Azure file and other blob storage, right? Or you can leave blank also. Okay, but I'm just using this Azure Blob or ADLS Gen 2. So as I mentioned you, Azure Blob will help you to store any kind of file, right? Media and non-media. ADLS Gen 2 will help me to store mm, only non-media files like CSV file and all, right? So I'm not going to change the pricing performance. I am using the standard performance only. Then redundancy. So do you know what is redundancy? So for example, geo-redundant storage. So it says that the data in your Azure storage account is always replicated to ensure durability and high availability. Now, if you want to get your data available across the geography, right, then you can easily use this geo redundant storage. However, you can check this link to learn more about this. Okay, so these are the interview questions you guys will be facing. Okay, now what you will do, there is an option to review and create. Once again, you will hit this button. The validation is in progress, so obviously validation will be successful because we have not committed any error. Okay, and it might be unsuccessful because if we have a GitHub, let's see. Okay, so you can review this stuff. Okay, so security and these things are enabled, blob disabled. Okay, fine. I can hit on create now. So these are the other things. You can go to basic, you can go to advanced to see other options also. So in this allow enabling access is there, right? Let me check. Permitted scope for copy operation from any storage account. So it will also allow for any storage account. Okay. And it is enabling both blob and data lake. Okay. And I have checked enabling hierarchical namespace. So you can check this also. If you see this hierarchical naming space complemented by data lake storage endpoint, enable file and directory semantic, accelerate big data workload. So the best part of this is when you are storing data in ADLS Gen 2, you can create folders and subfolders. Okay, and it will allow some multi-processing also. Okay, Azure files, enable large file share. Okay, so anyways, so this is all about advanced. Then we can go to networking. So all options are should be by default only. Data protection. Okay, tag, review and create. You already did that. So now we will create this. So it's deploying. Now storage account deployment is in progress. We'll have to wait for some time. Okay. So you can see that with the help of storage account, these many things are getting created. Okay. So its deployment is complete. So you can see go to resource. If I go to the storage account, it is created now. You can see all the details. What is the resource group under which it is created? This is the resource group. What is the location? This is the location. Okay. And what is the subscription? Free trial is the subscription. Okay. You can see the created date. This is the subscription ID. And this is data lake storage. So hierarchical namespace, I enabled it, so that's why it is enabled. File services are there. Okay. Got it. You can check other options also, but right now it's not required. Okay, got it. Now we have created, so you can see storage browser, what all options we have. We can store the data in a blob. We can do the file share. These are the tables. These are queues. Okay. Anyway, this is too early to talk about all these things. Now, within this storage account, so we created resource group, we created storage account, and within this storage account, we can create our containers. So what is container? Container is nothing but a folder, okay, within the storage account. So you can think in this way, you have a storage account. So within this storage account, you can create folders, folder for input data, and you can create another folder for output data. Okay. For example, input data, you will, put all the files which is coming from the data sources, which is nothing but a raw files. Okay. And output folder you can create where you can, you know, load the cleaned file after transformation. Curated layer, you can say. What do you mean by curated layer? Curated layer where we can, store the data after transforming into the desirable manner. Okay. Guys, any questions as of now? Okay. Now I'm going to create container. So for creating a container, because this container is available within the storage account. So what I will do, I will first go within the storage account. Okay. And I can create containers. Let me check here. Right. So within the storage account, I will hit on this container option and I will create a container. This is a plus container. So one container I'm going to create with the name as input. Okay. And I hit on create. So this container is nothing but a folder kind of structure where I can store all my files coming from data sources. Another container I created for output container. Similarly, if you want to create multiple containers, month-wise container, year-wise container, okay, you can do that. Making sense? Okay. Now we have created container. Now we will create ADF. ADF is nothing but Azure Data Factory. So this ADF will help me to create the pipelines. So let's create ADF now. Now, if you see, if you go to your home page, okay, so let me go to the home. I can click on this. I can click on home. This is my home page. If you scroll down, you will see what all things you have created so far. So for example, free trial is there. Subscription was there. Then I created resource group. It is there. Then I created storage account. It is there. Okay. Now what I need to create Azure Data Factory, another service. So I will go again to more services and I can search by doing a filter if I'm not getting here. So what I will do, I will create Azure Data Factory. This is okay. So for data factory, we can simply write data factory. Sorry. Uh, this is our data factory. Okay. So I can hit on create button. So you can see I have to choose my resource group. I have selected my resource group. Then I have mentioned ADF. Okay. Class 1, or we can make class simple. Okay, version is v2. This always comes as v2 because ADF has different versions. Whenever any tool comes, it comes with 0 version, 1 version, 2 version, so it will always come. So this name is already taken, so I need to choose a different name because in this East US there could be a multiple people working. They might have used the same name. So what I will do, I will have to choose another name. So let me check if another name is there. Okay, ADLS class 1 is there. Fine. So another thing is Git configuration. So I'm choosing configure Git later. So we should also know about GitHub. Do you guys know about GitHub or DevOps? Okay, I'm just giving you a very brief. So, in any of the IT world, we have actually three systems: development system, quality system, and production system, right? So, if we need to develop something, we always used to develop in development environment. Okay, for example, you are creating a simple program of a calculator. Okay, but you have created this calculator using Python programming, correct? So you have a development environment where you have done this programming in Python, and then the same Python program you can move to quality to for testing. Okay, and how you are moving, there are transports, like, actually, because you don't have to create again the same stuff in quality. So these systems are connected with each other. You have to build anything in development, you have to transport into quality, you have to test in quality, and further transport into production, right? And how this transport is happening with the help of some transport management. Now, to enable this transport management, these days companies are using GitHub. GitHub is a different company, just like Microsoft, Amazon, and Google. GitHub is another company, right? And this company create the repository for you. Okay, and that repository, they are moving from dev to quality to production. So as of now, I am not using. I will configure this later because I have not created any GitHub environment or GitHub IDs, right? So I click that. So I can go to networking and check if everything is good or not. So I can use enable managed virtual network on default, auto resolve runtime. Okay, even I did not check, that is fine. That's not a problem. Okay. Okay. Rest of the things are looking good. I will review and create. Okay. Now I will hit on create button. You can see development is in progress. Now we will go to resources. It is succeeded, right? So guys, we have created Azure Data Factory now. You can see. So if I again go to home and see what all objects we have created so far. So once again, it's not coming. Let me refresh. Okay, let me check the. This is showing here within the resource group. Okay. Okay, because location I have selected different. That's why it's not showing. Anyways, that's not a problem. So when we have to go in within the this Azure Data Factory, we can click there. We can hit on Launch Studio. So there will be a different link will open adf.azure.com. Okay. So here you can see you have an option for ingest, orchestrate, transform data, configure SSIS. Okay, so in next class we will deep dive more into Azure Data Factory. Okay, now I'm going to